G'day guys, it is Rely here. Today I decided I would do a little tutorial in Blender. So I'm going to be showing you how you can make yourself one of these cool looking renders. So basically what happens here, all of these planets circle the center planet, or if you want a clearer view, yeah, this is what's happening. So as we rotate the middle planet, all of the other planets will follow around. Now, you may think this is pretty hard, but it really isn't. It involves drivers, and yeah, I will be explaining what they are. Okay, first of all, I would just like to also point out that I will be teaching you how to make this pretty cool, it's like a cartoon shader with some noise. It's really easy, and there are a lot of better tutorials on how to do it, but I will just give you a basic rundown on how I learnt it, or how I do it. Okay. So, let's go into a new Blender environment and let's make a render that is like this. Alright guys, so as you can see, we are in a new Blender environment. So, the first thing you need to do before you do this project is on your number pad press 0, which will actually align your view to the camera. Now see how we are not actually, well we're front on to the object to an extent, but we want to be front on a certain axis. So currently we are not in the right position. Now if you press 1 on the number pad and then 5 on the number pad and then Control Alt 0, what it does is it aligns your view to the front position, and it will also set the camera to your current position using Control Alt 0. Okay, so now once we have done that, what we are going to do is actually delete this default cube by pressing delete. Also, if you want to know how I'm zooming, I have a scroll wheel on my mouse, and you guys have that too, so you can zoom by doing that. Alright guys, now in order to add our first object, we are going to press Shift and A, so Shift A, and we will add ourselves a UV sphere. So this is what a UV sphere looks like, and I'm looking around by pressing down my scroll wheel and then moving my mouse. They do look really cool. They're definitely one of the best spheres to use for this sort of thing. So yeah, now what you do to get back into your camera, which we can see over there, and we can either select it by left clicking or right clicking. It depends what version of Blender you're on, and it also depends what it's defaulted to and what you have it set to, but you can really just easily see if you right click an object and it brings up that, then you know that you have to select using left click. So yeah, just see whichever one works for you for selecting. I use left click personally, but that's just a bit of a habit, I guess. Okay, so press 0 on your number pad to go back to your camera view. Now that we have our UV sphere, we are going to press tab to enter edit mode. Now the reason for this is we want to make all these faces shade smooth, because right now it looks really ugly. So you achieve this by going tab into edit mode. You can see you're in edit mode by looking up here. This is basically all the possible modes. Object and edit modes will be the only ones we're going to use for this project. Yeah, but we're in edit mode right now. So select the face, drop down here, and then down at the bottom, one up from the bottom, you have shade flat and shade smooth. Now, if I click shade smooth, you will notice that if we press tab to exit edit mode, we will have a very smooth looking sphere, which is really different from what we had before, as you can see. So yeah, shade smooth is definitely better for a project like this, but if you were trying to make a low poly animation, you might lean more towards the shade flat. Okay, so now what we're going to do is actually make a few more of these spheres. So what we're going to do first is actually press Shift D. So what this does is it creates a duplicate of our original object. Now if you press right click, it will actually basically reset the location of your duplicated object. So now if we press G and we move it, we have two in exactly the same position. So you press right click to cancel that movement, and press tab to enter edit mode. So we have this UV sphere here. This is going to be one of our planets that will be orbiting the center. So by entering edit mode, this basically means we can move the object without changing the origin. Now, to get a little bit of a visualization, don't worry, you don't need to follow along here, but just watch what I'm doing. So, say we're in edit mode and we move our sphere over here. The origin is that little orange dot on the screen that you can see moving around, and that stays in the center. So this means if we rotate our object, it will rotate around that origin. Now, if I were to actually reset that location and I were to just move it in object mode, it rotates around the origin because the origin moves with the object in object mode. But if you enter edit mode, you can edit the location of the object, but the origin will still stay in exactly the same position. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just hop into Blender and play around with it a bit yourself. But it's not really something to worry about, guys. Anyway, if you have any queries, you can ask me in the comments. So, now that we have this sphere, what we're going to do, and now that we're in edit mode, you can check up here, is we're going to press G, X, and we're going to just move it out here. So, click to confirm where you want to move it to, and now we're actually going to scale our planet down a little bit. So press S, and find the scale you're happy with, and then press left click. So now we actually have one little planet that is going to orbit our main one. So we're going to repeat this quite a few times until we have a few little planets going on. So Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel so it's in the same location, and then tab so we're in edit mode, and then press G to move it somewhere else, and just scale it to make it a bit different from the other one. So press S to scale, remember? And left click to confirm. So repeat this again, Shift D, right click, tab, and then G, and then S. Alright guys, so you can just repeat that quite a few times until you have around about 10 little planets that are orbiting your main one. Alright guys, so this is what mine has ended up looking like. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 planets, so I didn't really want to do 10 for this one. But yeah, it does look quite nice. So now that we have all of these little planets going on, what we need to do is actually start setting up some animation. So let me just do a little bit of explaining first. Animation in Blender is achieved by, well, first of all, with animation, you need to select the object you want to animate. So in this case, we are going to have this UV sphere. So basically, this UV sphere is going to be, in a way, the parent of all of these objects. So think of all these objects as the main object's children. So this object is going to be like, turn around 50 degrees, and these objects, because they're children, they gotta listen, so they're all gonna turn around that amount. So, if that makes sense, then that's good. And you could also think of it as this is going to be the center planet, and these are just going to be asteroids that are orbiting it. So they all gotta follow around that path anyway. Okay, so first of all, let's get our base animation done. So make sure you have your cursor here on frame 1, it will show you there. And you can move it by holding left click and just, yeah, until you get to 1. Then you want to select your center object, so this one here, with right click or left click, press I. I means keyframe in Blender, I don't know why, but just do it anyway. And here, this may look a little bit frightening at first, but you don't need to worry about any of these, only rotation. So, click rotation. And now you see this orange box right here on the timeline. Well, you should, yeah. Yeah, so That orange box represents a keyframe, and as you can see, the rotation is yellow, meaning it has been keyframed. So we have it on frame 1, which is the starting frame of our animation, but in order to get a seamless animation, we're going to go to frame 251, which is 1 after the end frame, and we are going to rotate it on the y-axis. So first of all, make sure you're in the Object tab, which can be accessed here, and then you want to go into Rotation and type 360 into the y-axis right there, and then press I while hovering over it. So guys, now what we have achieved is a looping animation of the center rolling, well, rotating. As you can sort of see, let me zoom in, yeah. So, what we're going to do with that now is basically we're going to make all of these, the children of this one. So we're going to do that by using drivers. There are many other ways you could do it, but drivers are definitely going to be the best for this project because we want to make them look like they're animating and they're orbiting at different speeds. So this is going to be a little bit confusing for a lot of you, so just listen very closely and follow what I do. So select the first planet you want to animate. So we're going to animate this planet to go around the main one, and select basically whichever thing you want to be animating. We're going to animate its rotation along the y-axis so it looks like it's orbiting like this. So to achieve this, we're going to right click on rotation here on the y-axis. So right click, and instead of doing insert keyframe, we're actually going to press add driver. So this is very complicated. It really doesn't need to be this complicated. Basically what we're doing, guys, is we're going to be selecting our center object, which in this case I am pretty sure is the sphere. Yeah, so the sphere, because that was the first thing we added. So set the sphere to be the object, and then we want these to animate based on the sphere's y rotation, because we animated the sphere's y rotation before, and that's what it's animating right now. So we have just inserted a driver, and this is now rotating at exactly the same speed as the planet, which is good, but we want to make some changes to this as well. So let me show you. First of all, right click the driver, which is represented with that purple color, and press copy driver. Now this is just going to really speed up what we're doing. So yeah, we're going to select another object we want to animate using left or right click. We're going to right click on the Y rotation again, and we're going to actually press paste driver this time. In fact, we are going to do this for everyone. So left click, right click on rotation Y, and paste driver. Left click, right click on rotation Y, paste driver, left click, right click, paste driver, and just continue doing that, guys, until all of them have been animated. Well, all of them have been linked. I'm pretty sure this one, yeah. Okay, so you will now see that we have quite a few planets going around our center. But the thing is, guys, it really doesn't look too good because they aren't really, they're moving exactly the same speed, exactly the same manner. It really doesn't look very nice. So what we're going to be doing is adding a little bit more organic movement, if that makes sense. So the way we will achieve this is actually through some math. So if you guys don't like math, I'm sorry, it's okay, I will do the math for you. But yeah. So click an object you want to move a different speed. For me, I feel like that would be a bit cool. It'd be cool having this one move a different speed. So click it, and then rotation Y, you want to right click and edit the driver. So this expression here, it basically just means, in a way, how it reacts to the other object rotating. So if we look at this var here, that means variable, but in this case, the var is just the rotation. So the variable at 360 degrees, so like a full rotation, would be 360, and at 0 it would be 0. So keep that in mind, guys. It really isn't that hard. It's var is literally just the rotation of this object. So we're going to go in here and we're actually going to make a few changes. So we're going to make it var for this one times 2. So that means it's going to travel 2 times as fast as it was before. So as you can see, it is traveling 2 times as fast as all the other objects. Now let me just explain this. On computers and coding and stuff like that, you always use that little symbol there for times. It is, I don't know what you call it. I think it's an asterisk. I think it's called an asterisk, but yeah. So now what I'm going to do is basically just repeat this for some other objects. So I reckon this one here maybe would be good going a different speed. So edit the driver and make it var times by 3 maybe. And guys, you also want to keep in mind that if the value you multiply it by, so for example var times 3, if 3 was a decimal like 3.2 for example, at the end it would jump. Do you see that jump? How it crosses back to the start and it jumps? That is not a seamless animation because it is animated basically in intervals of 1. So if we do it anything but an interval of 1, it's just going to look really bad. Okay, so now what we are going to do is actually repeat this step but for a lot of our other planets. Okay, first of all I'm going to pick this one, edit driver, we're going to make this one go at maybe 4. Then I feel like this is a little bit too much of the same thing over here, so we're going to go var times 2, and then that's going to be moving like that. And honestly guys, I reckon if we just change this one here to make it go at like maybe 5, we are going, yeah, that is a good looking animation. Now you'll notice that these objects here overlap quite a lot, and it happens very frequently. So in order to fix this, we are going to have to move some of our objects backwards like you saw in my previous one. So how we are going to actually do this is by just going through our list up here. So this is a scene collection. It's pretty simple. So this sphere is our main object, and sphere 1 to 9 are all of our other objects. So the way we're going to separate them is by selecting an object. We're going to go through the list. So we're going to start at sphere 0.01. No, sphere. We're going to start at sphere 001, and we're going to press G, Y, so on the Y axis, 1, because that number there is 1. Then we're going to go 2, G, Y, 2. Then we're going to go 3, G, Y, 3. Then we're going to go 4, G, Y, 4. Then we're going to go 5, G, Y, 5. We're going to go 6, G, Y, 6. And we're going to go 7, G, Y, 7. 8, G, Y, 8. And finally, 9, G, Y, 9. So, you'll notice now that all of our planets animate very smoothly, and they look quite nice. So, to finish off this animation, I think we're going to get some cool textures going on, and I also think we need to add a ring to go around this object. Okay guys, so select your center sphere and press tab to enter edit mode, and then press shift A, and we are going to actually add a torus. Now when you add a torus, you will see this little drop down at the bottom left here, and if you click that little arrow, you have a lot of settings. Now the only thing we have to worry about is a major radius here. So we want to make it so that this is quite a large looking torus. Also, to move around, remember, hold down your middle mouse wheel. So, I reckon that's large enough, so once you have changed that, press S to scale it down, and left click to confirm. Now press R, and then press X, and we are going to rotate it on the X axis just a little bit, and press left click to confirm. So now we have that. Now once again, we want to go face, and shade smooth, while we're in edit mode. Okay guys, so we have a nice looking planet thing going on there, and it's just going to rotate through like that. And that is a very nice looking animation, and you will notice that it is also seamless. So you can't tell if you're not looking at the timeline when it actually passes back to the start. Okay guys, so now that we have done that, we are going to work at the textures. So press Z and then press rendered, and you will get something that looks a little bit like this. Alright. Also, if you want to just move around like this, press shift and hold down your middle mouse button, and you can easily just move around. But if you don't hold shift, you will just move in the 3D space, which is not what we want. So make sure you hold shift. Okay. So now what we're going to do is create a cool looking texture for all of this. The way we're going to do this is by just selecting everything we want to have our cool texture. So you can basically do this by selecting one, pressing shift and then left clicking another one, or however you select. So you have to hold shift while you select them all. And then we're going to select 9 on here because we can't see it right now. Okay, so now we're going to go down here in the materials tab. We're going to click there and we're going to press new. Okay, now put your cursor back into the 3D viewport, which is basically this 3D area, and press Ctrl L, and we're going to make links with materials. Okay, this means all of these objects are going to have the same material, so if we change one, we change the other ones. Alright guys, let's continue. So, now you will see up here a little arrow if you hover your cursor in the corner. Left click while your arrow is like that and move your cursor over, and you will notice that another screen comes up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is actually change the type of screen. So right now, if you click this little area here, it is set to a 3D viewport, which is just the 3D stuff as I was saying, but we are going to change it to a shader editor, which is 4th down on the general list. Alright, so now we have something that looks a little bit like this. This is quite complicated, and it's what you call a node tree. It's not really anything to worry about though, so don't stress. But what we are going to be doing is making a few changes to this node tree. Also keep in mind, if you want to make it bigger, you can just left click on the side of the window and just drag it. Okay, so once again scroll to zoom, and we are going to shift A and we're going to add a texture coordinate. So what this does is this is going to look at the window, and that is going to be what makes our texture. So it's going to make it compared to the scale of the window. So we're going to add a Voronoi texture. There we go. You could look up just Voronoi like that, and it would come up. So you want to go Shift A and then click search Voronoi. Okay. So now what we're going to do is actually connect the window thing here into the vector. So do this by holding left click on that circle there and then connect it to the next circle. You can sort of tell because they're the same color that they're supposed to be connected to each other. Now you're going to hold left click on the color and connect it to the base color. Okay, now this scale here is best to be at about 1 million. So click it and press 1,000,000. And you can see now, if we zoom in on the actual viewport, that we have a lot of noise going on there. Noise is basically just a mess of colors, and yeah, it's usually associated with bad renders, but in this case we want noise, so it's a bit different. Anyway, okay, now what we're going to do, once again hold middle mouse button to move around, is we're going to go Shift A and we're going to add an RGB, so a shader to RGB. So if you type RGB in the search, shader to RBG, which is at the bottom, you want to put that in between the material output and the principled BSDF. And now you want to get a color ramp, shift A color ramp, and add that between the material output and the shader. And then finally, you want to go shift A and you want to add an emission shader. Alright, so what we're going to do now is actually change these colors. So these colors are these colors are going to basically determine how the shading looks in the output. So if we move by holding left click on these color things, and we move them closer to each other like that, you can see if you zoom in that there is no gradient anymore. There's a gradient of dots, but the dots themselves they're either black or white. The dot cannot be white. The dots are either black or white. The dots can't be grey. The dots can't be light grey. They're either black or white. The reason for that is because of how close these are together, and that's what creates this really cool cartoon shader. Alright guys, so now that we've done that, let's just find a cool color. I'm going to make mine, I reckon I'll make mine here maybe green. I'll put a darker green color for that part, and then this one here, I might make a light green. Like that. Alright guys, and that looks pretty cool. Once again though, you can change the locations of these by just left clicking and dragging until you find something you like. But it really is just personal preference. I reckon that looks pretty good, so I'm going to leave it like that. In fact, I might even move it just the tiniest bit over. Okay, there we go. So, now that I'm done with my shader, I'm going to left click here and move this back over. Alright, so now if I press space to play, I have a nice looking animation going on here, which is really cool. So what I can do now is, if I wanted to, I could actually set the background color. So if you look to the right here, there is actually a tab that looks like the Earth, and that is the World tab. So click that, and you'll see the color for the background is currently that grey color. If we change that to something a little bit more interesting, maybe something like that even. Also keep in mind that it will have an effect on the rest of the colors. But if I make it something like that, I reckon that looks pretty interesting, although something like that will be definitely better. Okay, so there we go. I have a nice looking animation, a nice background, and that actually brings us to the end of this tutorial. So thank you very much guys for watching. Please post any queries or anything you're confused with in the comments. I will be more than happy to help you. But I hope this is a good tutorial for you guys. And yeah, suggest anything else you want me to do. Alright guys, see you next time.